All right, it is time to round up one of the big stories of the week, and we've been telling you all week long about these more than 24 sexually violent predators who had moved into a North Houston community home. Well, after intense pressure from state officials and angry neighbors, those guys are now moving back to the Beaumont Highway halfway house where they were originally. State Senator John Whitmire says he was blindsided when the state's civil commitment program moved the 29 sexually violent predators into the Acres Homes neighborhood. They're considered to be the most dangerous of sexual predators.
We're dealing with the worst of the worst, the most dangerous population of sex offenders.
Well, the men will remain now at the Southeast Texas Transition Center on East Beaumont Highway for no longer than 30 days until a new location can be found for them to live. These men have to be kept in custody even after completing their prison sentences. That's how dangerous they are. So where should they go? Where should they live? That's our topic this hour. We want to hear from you on Facebook. You can also send me a tweet at Sally Mack, Fox 26. In the newsroom, we have our legal analyst, Chris Tritico, news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
So apparently, is it right that they can't stay at the halfway house because they were taking up space that's needed for other offenders there? So where should these guys live?
Well, the problem is, Sally, this is a transition center, and hence the name. They're not going to be there very long. And the state was putting these people in this transition center and leaving them there, not opening up beds for other inmates who are coming out and other sex offenders, that are coming out and need to be transitioned into private homes or private places to live. And so the issue becomes, where can we put people like this? State law requires notice to the neighbors. When a sex offender moves in, the neighbors get a card informing them of that. That's what caused this problem. And the state was wrong in putting, I think, up to 30-something people, Jackie Bally, into this one home. But the real issue becomes, we can't hold them forever. The law's not going to allow that. Even though they're sex offenders, they have to be able to live somewhere. Where?
Well, I'm very excited and happy that the residents of Acres Homes got together and said, not here. Because Acres Homes, everything gets dumped in that
Acres
area.
Homes, right.
You know, it's only 8.8 square miles. It has the largest concentration of landfill in the city. And so, you know, we have to have a lot of these shelters, a lot of these different homes evenly distributed throughout the city. But every time we think of something like this, Acres Home is one of the first places that we think of putting something like that. They have a rich history for African Americans, but unfortunately the city has ignored it. So I'm glad that their legislatures stepped up and said, no, we're not doing this. I'm glad the residents stepped up. And, you know, where are we going to put them? That's for somebody else to decide. But I'm glad Acres Homes, the residents, stepped up and said no.
And nobody wants a sex offender living in their neighborhood. Nobody. No. I don't think there's anybody jumping up saying, come live over here.
That's right.
But what are we going to make, a penal colony? Go buy an island somewhere and just dump them there? What are we going to do?
Penal colony, pun intended.
We're going to leave that comment alone.
Sorry.
Wasn't
We're going to leave that alone. It's Sunday morning after all. No, look, this is a classic case, is not next to my house. None of us would allow that to happen. Acres Home has got two strong representatives in Senator Whitmire and State Representative Sylvester Turner. They will not allow it. Those guys, as one of them said, not on my watch. They're going. So the challenge with this is, like with anything else, where do you put them? And we have to decide that as a state to try to figure out this problem. But I can't imagine any neighborhood in this state that would accept 30 sex offenders living,
and that's really the issue. It's the number that they put in there, not the fact that there was a sex offender there.
Correct.
Let's go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Guys, we have this great viewer, Cedric, who's up early with us this morning, and he has a great idea. So listen to this. He says, develop an apartment complex on the outskirts of the city. He says, build a new subdivision, create jobs for them, teach them some mechanic skills, teach them how to garden, have them clean that part of the city. He says, guys, I'm sure we can figure something out.
Well, I'm not sure that would be constitutional. That would be the penal colony I was talking about, no pun intended, Jackie, that you can't just, say this is the only place you can live and you're going to live among your kind.
Right, right. I commend our viewer for his great idea. Some parts of it are very great. But again, going back to what we've all said, it's the number. You know, even in Sugar Land, I live in a neighborhood that's supposed to be very affluential, and you still have, whenever someone who is a former sexual offender comes into our neighborhood, we get the notice, and we have a couple out there living with us. I mean, they're not in the same situation,
Right.
they're not in transition, but we didn't have 36. That is a very high number. I think maybe split them up, maybe that would be more palatable to some neighborhoods.
Once you've served your sentence, and even though you're under the civil commitment law and you have to be continually monitored, you've served your sentence. You paid the debt that society said you have to pay.
Yeah, and we have to look at that legislative process, right? I think it's important to let your neighbors know that the sex offender is moving into that vicinity. As the Facebook post said, you know, getting them job training, getting them those type of things are critical. At the same time, no one would want their kids exposed to someone like that living in their neighborhood, and so you can't blame the residents. This is a larger problem, and it'll take us a while to kind of figure this out.
All right, we're going to leave it right there, Sally, but we do want to say how excited we are today, because not only do we have the HEB lady in the house, but we have Mike Iskovitz. It's a banner bonus day.
I know. We're going to be eating good. We've got a not great forecast, but we've got the best man on the job for it. So.
That's right.
Did he bring the bad weather?
We'll have to ask him a little bit later. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in our next half hour.